Grow a Garden 1883. That sounds stupid. Okay, so Grow a Garden version 1883. This is probably the most buggiest that I've recently experienced Grow Garden today. With some sort of bug going around with your crops not wanting to grow, even them actually reversing and completely dispersing, all the way up to the moon cats apparently getting a nerf, even though it might not be a nerf, it could be a bug. There are a couple of things that I have noticed over the past couple of days since this update has been released. Before we go ahead and get started with today's video, hi, if you guys are brand new, you should subscribe and like the video as it does help me come out with more content like this for you guys. Okay, so as mentioned, I recently noticed as soon as this update was released, I would get some crops here that would refuse to fully grow. I have used all the way up to 5 Grandmaster sprinklers, with even the crop itself actually reversing in its own growth. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, I do have a recently uploaded video called the Unreleased Dev Seed, which is the mangrove. You'll be able to see what I'm talking about exactly. This also happened somewhat with the maple resin as well, which was really random. I was fixing up this entire event garden here, and I want to say it was almost happening with this as well. It was actually taking a lot longer than normal. Even with a ton of sprinklers being put down, it still felt like it was staggering. So I'm not entirely sure right now if there's some sort of bug going around to where crops are just struggling to grow. This ended up having me to be forced to spend the 375 Robux to go ahead and just not have this bug be in my garden. That's not the only thing that's currently happening right now. Players are reporting that during this update, the moon cat has been more buggy than usual. At first, people thought it was an actual nerf, but considering how many bugs are within this update and how many people are experiencing this, it could just be a bug for right now. I know at the very beginning of this fall update, we were able to do certain things during this event, which might have caused this update to just be a little buggy. When it first did come out, you were able to put a ton of fall eggs down and instantly hatch those. Not only that, but if you were to pretty much complete the 500 out of 500 of this for the tree, you could technically leave the game and reload, and you could redo it again. Those were the two bugs that I noticed immediately as soon as this update came out, though it didn't last very long, and that ended up getting fixed. During that fix, I can't really say for certain if that actually caused everything else to be a little buggy though. But ever since the whole mangrove situation, I ended up losing 5 Grandmaster sprinklers. I personally wouldn't suggest using those until we know for certain this is patched and we don't feel like we're going to be wasting them for nothing. I do have a great amount left. I have 17 left out of the 20 something that I had previously, but that's primarily waiting for every single admin event to happen, and that was a lot of saving. I know not everybody is going to be able to afford any of this inside of the gear section at 279 Robux every single time. Yet alone, I had to do this twice over here, and I don't feel like doing that over and over again over a bug. So the only advice I could really give you guys is be careful of what you're planting, because it just might stay permanently baby, meaning that it might not grow out. Hopefully they do actually end up fixing this, because this can be extremely problematic for those that are not able to use Robux for instant growth. Okay, so I ended up doing some reading, okay? There was something that I read about the Zen monkey, the one that actually goes into a hot spring. This is clearly patched already, so we can go ahead and talk about it. I never really engaged in doing any of these things because it's always a little too complicated for me to wrap my head around it. But according to how you're supposed to do this is you're supposed to give a small or a medium treat to the pet that you want to go ahead and give this to. Wait until the treat timer is super duper low, and then you have to place 2 of the monkeys and then put them in a hot spring or something. This allowed players to pretty much use moon cats infinitely to the point where they just pretty much didn't have a cooldown for any of their stuff, which, you know, obviously might be linked to bugs and stuff. Though I haven't heard recently anything about a new glitch that's currently happening with the moon cats, other than what we currently have right now, which was nerfed in July. The moon cat was nerfed, specifically the lucky harvest ability, to not stack due to moon cat Moocat stacking, causing fruits to have a 100% duplication chance. And then obviously during this update, people thought it was worse. It was nerfed even more so. But again, I feel like all of this might be just connected to how the game's code was recently written, mostly because of all the bugs that we already had in the very beginning of the launch of this update. Then again, I'm not 100% sure because, I don't know, I'm not a developer on Grub Garden. So I know this is such a weird pickle situation where we don't know exactly what is happening, but I do know is something up in the air right now, and there's a few bugs, okay? There's a lot of bugs happening right now. I don't know if anybody else is experiencing this where you do plant something and it just kind of refuses to grow out, or if you load in your other garden, it just does not progress any further. You notice how you ever load in your garden and it's like, oh, your garden grew offline. Yeah, it doesn't do that anymore. Okay, so I reloaded into my other garden and I did have some eggs here at some point. I changed into my other garden and I reverted back the very next day and the eggs never progressed any further. So it's like I literally just put them down and they still had that 4-hour cap on them. Now, I don't know if this is a Roblox saving issue where sometimes you do have that. I know Pet Simulator does have that error as well. So I don't know if it's just a saving feature in Grow a Garden where it's just not doing its thing. If you do have eggs, put it on the garden that you really care about the most. If you switch out your gardens, just as a precautionary thing, make sure it's on a garden that you're gonna leave up most of the day. I'm gonna have to do this as well because for whatever reason, this garden just didn't do the thing that it needed to do. Abyssal. Okay, I had to relook at this because this is the first time I'm actually seeing a mutation have like VFX that look this crazy, and I didn't realize that I had this. Eclipse mutation and the Void Touch mutation both get combined and it creates this. Why couldn't that have gotten on something else more cooler? This gives you a 240 multiplier. 240. But that's actually really cool. It almost reminds me of the Gloom mutation, except now it just looks like this. That's actually pretty sick, and it's already worth almost 4 million shekels, which, I mean, for a little cocoa bean, that's crazy, actually. Okay, let's continue the topic. Now, to get a better understanding of what bugs are really going around, their Discord server has something called Console Bug Section. This is where you can kind of get an idea of what to look out for, if anything. People are losing crops, people are losing pets, though I believe the pets one has been pretty proactive during the last month or so, but you're going to be seeing a lot of people claiming that they did end up losing their pets. This is the one that was interesting to me though, because this is something that I'm also experiencing as well, is your garden didn't grow. Planted some stuff, switched to my first slot, went to sleep the next day. The other slot is still the same as I left it. This is exactly what ended up happening to my other slot, which I had my eggs in. Another one is the sprinklers are not working. I've been grinding my Bone Blossom with Triceratops and Mooncats plus all sprinklers, but nothing is growing past 50 kilograms. And again, this might be something that, I don't know, maybe is a bug, or maybe perhaps they're doing something else. This was where the original speculation is, what if they were nerfing it silently without saying anything? Though again, this is very, very sumptuous right now for us to say anything. I feel like it might just be a really bad bug that's currently happening, because even if you have sprinklers going, your plants should be progressively growing. And rather than that, my plant actually went backwards. So it's absolutely 100% a bug. So personally, if you see a ton of the same issue happening, don't use your sprinklers. Not until they actually update it and fix it. Sprinklers aren't working. Plants not growing. Plants not growing. Second slot not growing. Maple resin fruits aren't regrowing. This is something else that also happened to me as well, which was counterproductive because the Grandmaster sprinklers, I tried using a ton of those and they did not work. So a lot of people are having the crop not growing bug and the master sprinklers, basic sprinklers, advanced sprinklers, all sprinklers not working. One off little thing that I did also notice is that the chill spray is not working. This is something that you can go ahead and create within the crafting section. I tried to apply it to something that I needed for Ascension, but it didn't apply and it didn't work. It wasn't until that I had to use a second one, and that one eventually did work. So I don't know if that's like a bug or just something that I might have done on my end, but kind of seeing this also twice within the bug section is also a little out there as well. Of course, you might see the economy is broken right now. I mean, again, that's like a 50-50 thing. You either like like the economy may be broken or just don't. But for sure, after reading all of this stuff here, don't even bother using your sprinklers at the very moment. Well, we went over mostly everything that I am currently aware of and what I have experienced throughout the entire week with this, but it has been 5 days. Within those 5 days, I have noticed sprinklers do not work. I would say that your garden slot saving and reloading is like literally a 50-50. It may not progress and it may progress. I noticed that it is a miss and hit if you end up getting progression saved on it or not. Again, I don't know if that's a Roblox issue or if it is a saving issue. Mooncats may or may not be bugged or nerfed according to a lot of players out there. Then again, I'm not 100% sure. That I leave that up to you and they may or may not fix it. Sprinklers are completely busted. Certain plants do not grow. I can confirm this. The mangrove and especially the maple resin right now are just refusing to grow, especially if you're using sprinklers on them. Even when fully grown, the crop itself will not grow. This ends up leading a player to having to spend 375 Robux, which you may or may not have, to instantly grow at your garden. These issues have to be 100% addressed because maybe somebody out there might not be able to afford the 375 Robux to do this all the time. So I am going to go ahead and leave my garden alone, and I am going to go ahead and get a ton of reclaimers for should if anything happen and I have to reclaim things. Hopefully this ends up getting fixed before this Saturday, if not maybe this Saturday. But absolutely, I am not using my sprinklers anymore at this point. But that's pretty much it. I can't really talk about any other bugs that are currently happening because I am not aware of the other ones. If you guys have any bug reports to make, you can join the Grow Garden Discord server and actually make a report on it to maybe perhaps bring awareness to it. If there are any other bugs that I might have missed, you can comment them down below. But who else is experiencing these bugs right now? I cannot be the only person with a handful of others. As always, make sure you guys do like the video as it does help me come up with more content like this for you guys. And just to reiterate, we're not here to bash the developers either. I appreciate and I respect the developers of all the Roblox games when it comes to these issues. It's not easy addressing bugs, especially at this caliber with hundreds of thousands of people playing. And until then, I will see you guys all in the next video.
Okay, bye.